Reddit, what's the most unbelievably impudent thing someone has ever done to you? Last weekend was my mom's 65th birthday, and I'd spent weeks planning a nice dinner at her favorite little Italian place. It was supposed to be a quiet family gathering, just my mom, my dad, my brother, and me. Right before we left, I got a text from my cousin Samantha asking if it was okay if she came too. Now, we're not super close with Sam. She's a lot. But I didn't want to cause drama on my mom's big day, so I said sure. Big mistake. Sam arrived late, storming in with puffy eyes and tear-streaked makeup. She dramatically announced, "My life is falling apart." Derek left me last night and plopped down next to my mom, clutching her hand. For the next 2 hours, Sam hijacked the entire dinner. She loudly rehashed every detail of the breakup to anyone who would listen, including the poor waiter. She sobbed through the appetizers, ordered the most expensive bottle of wine, and kept declaring love is dead. I'll never be happy again. The final straw? When the staff brought out my mom's birthday cake, Sam lunged forward and blew out the candles herself. No joke. Then she shouted, "I need this wish more than anyone here." My mom, ever gracious, patted her on the arm and said, "Sweetheart, this was supposed to be my night." I could have cheered. We ended the dinner early. My mom told me later she was mostly amused, but I'm still seething. Who does that? Anyway, thanks for reading. Next year, I'm not extending invites at the last minute. Lesson learned. A couple of years ago, my best friend got married and asked me to be a bridesmaid. I was beyond excited. At the last minute, my brother asked if his new girlfriend Tina could be my plus one since she didn't know anyone at the wedding. I'd only met her once, but I said sure, the more the merrier, right? Big mistake. Tina started drinking as soon as we arrived. By the time dinner was served, she was very drunk. She loudly told everyone at our table that the bride probably wouldn't last 2 years married and that the groom seemed like the controlling type. Then, during the reception, she danced provocatively with several men, including the father of the groom. But the worst part was during the speeches. As the maid of honor finished, Tina tried to grab the mic, yelling that she had real advice about love to share with the couple. The DJ had to physically block her. I spent the rest of the night apologizing to everyone. My brother was mortified. Needless to say, Tina was not invited to any future family events. And I learned to never accept a last-minute plus one again. So this happened about a year ago, and I still shake my head when I think about it. I'm a single mom of a 5-year-old daughter, and I work in healthcare. My hours can get crazy, so I sometimes hire a babysitter when my usual daycare can't cover late shifts. A coworker recommended a young woman named Amber who was studying early childhood education. She came with good references, seemed sweet during the interview, and my daughter liked her. I hired her for 2 evenings a week. The first couple of times, things seemed fine. Amber showed up on time, played with my daughter, sent me updates, no red flags. Then one Friday, I got called home early when my shift was unexpectedly cut. I figured I'd surprise them with pizza. I walked in around 7 p.m. That's when I saw Amber in my clothes. She was standing in front of my full-length mirror in the living room, taking selfies in my favorite cocktail dress, wearing my heels, and spraying on my perfume, the expensive one I only wear for special occasions. I was so stunned I just blurted, "What are you doing?" She looked startled for half a second, then coolly smiled and said, "Oh, I was just trying to get into character for the kids. Playing dress-up, you know? Helps them connect better." Mind you, my daughter was in the other room playing with Legos. There had been no mention of dress-up games. And my closet was clearly off limits. I keep my bedroom door shut. I told Amber to change back immediately and that this was completely inappropriate. She huffed, but complied. When she came out, she tried to downplay it again, saying, "I'm just creative." Most parents appreciate that. Yeah. No. I paid her for the hours worked and told her I wouldn't be needing her anymore. She stormed out, muttering that I was too uptight and stifling my daughter's imagination. Later that night, I checked my closet and noticed that some jewelry was slightly moved. Nothing was missing, thankfully, but it gave me the creeps. I changed all my passwords and kept a closer eye on my things for weeks after. My daughter, thankfully, was oblivious to all of this. Lesson learned: vet your babysitters thoroughly and trust your gut. If something feels off, it probably is. I still wonder how many other parents Amber pulled this on. Hopefully none, but I definitely warned my coworker who recommended her. Anyway, thanks for letting me vent. Some people just have no boundaries. You know how people say going to the gym builds confidence? Well, not when you run into someone like her. For context, I, 32F, started going to the gym about 6 months ago. I'm not a fitness influencer. I'm not super slim, but I'm proud of the progress I've made. After years of putting it off, I finally carved out time to focus on myself, and I genuinely look forward to my gym sessions now. That morning, I just finished a great cardio workout. I was feeling sweaty but accomplished. I headed to the locker room to shower before work. I was mid-change, sports bra off, towel around my waist, when I heard this voice. You know, you really shouldn't wear that kind of sports bra if you have your size. I froze. I looked up and saw this older woman, maybe late 50s, dressed immaculately in matching workout gear, perfectly styled hair. She was standing near her locker, arms crossed, looking directly at me. I stammered something like, "Sorry, what?" She repeated, louder this time, so half the locker room could hear. "That bra you wore, it doesn't give enough support for someone with your chest. It's really bad for posture. I can recommend a better brand if you want." At this point, other women were side-eyeing us. I was mortified. Trying to be polite and honestly caught off guard, I replied, "Thanks, but I'm fine with what I have." Did she drop it? Nope. She walked over, opened her gym bag, pulled out a vacuum-sealed sports bra, and said, "I sell these through my wellness group. They'd be perfect for you. I can give you a discount." I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. I just shook my head and said, "No, really. I'm good." She sighed dramatically and muttered, "Suit yourself. Some women just don't care about long-term health." I quickly gathered my things and left without showering. In the car, I felt a mix of anger and embarrassment. Why do some people think it's okay to comment on strangers' bodies, especially in a locker room? The kicker? Later that day, I Googled her name out of curiosity. She'd handed me a business card during her unsolicited pitch. Turns out she runs an MLM that sells posture-enhancing bras and fitness wear. She probably trolls gyms looking for new targets. I debated reporting her to the gym, but decided instead to warn a few of the staff members I know. They said they'd had a couple complaints about her before and would keep an eye out. Moral of the story: if you're working out and someone comments on your body or tries to sell you something, you don't owe them politeness. Set your boundaries. And remember, your worth isn't defined by what some random wellness peddler thinks. Anyway, that's my little locker room saga. Still going to the gym. Still wearing my wrong sports bra. Still proud of myself. Buying my first house was supposed to be a dream. A little fixer-upper in a quiet neighborhood, decent schools, big trees, and a backyard where I could finally start a garden. What I didn't factor in was our local HOA, or more specifically, the self-appointed queen of it, Marlene. Marlene is the type of woman who takes neighborhood watch to a militaristic level. She's in her late 60s, always wearing a visor, always carrying a clipboard, and always just dropping by. A couple weeks after moving in, I was outside planting herbs. I had earbuds in, dirt under my nails, and was completely in my happy place. That's when I saw someone walk past my window, in my fenced backyard. I pulled out a bud and found Marlene poking around near my planters like she was inspecting the grounds of a resort she owned. Startled, I said, can I help you? She didn't even flinch. She looked up and said, "Sweetheart, I just had to come back here. The way your pots are arranged, it's very asymmetrical. It disrupts the street line aesthetics." I was stunned, speechless. She had literally let herself into my yard, uninvited, to critique my flower pots. I told her, very firmly, that she needed to leave. She gave me a tight smile and said, "You'll thank me later. We have an image to maintain." I reported the incident to the HOA board and changed the lock on my gate. Turns out she doesn't even hold a formal position anymore. She just acts like she does. Now I keep a broom by the back door. Not for sweeping, just in case. I wasn't going to post about this, but it's still bothering me, so here goes. I'm 29F. A couple of weeks ago, I found a lump in my breast. Terrified, I booked an appointment at a women's health clinic. The nurse told me there might be a bit of a wait, so I brought a book and tried to distract myself. The waiting room was pretty full, mostly older women. I was sitting quietly in the corner, flipping through my novel when this woman, probably late 50s or early 60s, plopped down right next to me, even though there were plenty of other seats. She looked at me, smiled, and said, "You're too young to be here." I gave a nervous smile and shrugged. I really didn't want to talk. Then she leaned in and added, "You know, if young women took better care of themselves, they wouldn't need to come to places like this." I blinked. Was she serious? Before I could respond, she continued, "It's all the processed food, drinking, birth control. You should really consider a plant-based diet and maybe try crystals. Western medicine just masks the symptoms." At this point, everyone nearby was listening. My hands were shaking. I wanted to tell her to shut up, but I was too anxious about the appointment. When the nurse finally called my name, I practically bolted from my chair. After my exam, which thankfully went well, nothing serious, just a cyst, I told the nurse what had happened in the waiting room. She apologized profusely and said that woman had caused problems before. I know the woman probably thought she was being helpful, but it felt like being judged at one of the most vulnerable moments of my life. I didn't need unsolicited health advice from a stranger when I was already scared out of my mind. I haven't been able to stop thinking about it. If you're reading this, please don't comment on what strangers are doing at a clinic. You have no idea what they're going through. I really thought I was doing a good deed. My coworker Jess mentioned she was between apartments and needed a place to stay for a week. I had a spare room and I figured, why not? I've always prided myself on being a good hostess. Big mistake. Jess showed up with 3 suitcases. For a 1-week stay. Okay, weird, but I figured maybe she packed options. By day 2, she'd completely rearranged my kitchen. I walked in to find my spice rack reorganized. Your system made no sense, and my coffee mugs moved to a different cabinet. Then she started critiquing my shampoo brand in the shower and suggesting better options I should buy. The kicker? One night, I came home to find 3 strangers in my living room. Jess had invited her friends over without asking me, and they were drinking my wine. When I pulled her aside and asked her to respect my space, she rolled her eyes and said, "You're being such a bad hostess." Hospitality is about making your guests feel at home. I asked her to leave the next morning. She packed up, grumbling the whole time, and I promptly changed the locks. Lesson learned. Boundaries matter, and not everyone deserves your kindness. Sometimes you just want a cute manicure and some quiet time. Apparently, that's too much to ask. I'd had a rough week, one of those weeks where it feels like the universe is playing dodgeball and you're the ball. So I decided to treat myself to a manicure at a new salon that had popped up near my office. It had great reviews and looked super fancy inside. I booked an appointment, walked in, and was immediately impressed. Crystal chandeliers, spa music, cucumber water, the works. I was ushered to a chair where Lisa, the nail tech, introduced herself. She seemed friendly enough at first. We exchanged the usual pleasantries, and I settled in. That's when it started. Midway through filing my nails, she glanced at my left hand and said, "Oh, no ring? You're not married." I smiled politely. "Nope, not married." She paused and said, "You really shouldn't wait too long." "You're what, late 20s? I'm 33, but thanks." I chuckled awkwardly. "I'm in no rush." Well, that was apparently an invitation to open the floodgates of unsolicited life advice. For the next 45 minutes, as she buffed, shaped, and polished, she gave me a full lecture on why I needed to hurry up and find a man. I kid you not, I was a captive audience with wet nails. You should lower your standards. All these women think they'll find a perfect man, but most of the good ones are taken. My cousin's friend married a man she met at the grocery store. You should try that. You must not be trying hard enough. Are you on dating apps? No? Well, that's why you're single. I just sat there, smiling through gritted teeth, silently willing the appointment to end. Then it got even better. As she started applying the top coat, she said, "Actually, I do life coaching on the side. I can help you. If you want, I'll give you a discount on my counseling sessions. We can work on your confidence and finding a man." I blinked. "No, thank you. I'm good." She frowned. "Are you sure? You really shouldn't waste time." I bit my tongue so hard, I practically drew blood. When we finally finished, she handed me a business card with life coach and nail artist printed in curly font. Then she added an extra $10 counseling fee to my bill. I told the front desk what had happened and refused to pay the extra charge. They were apologetic and comped the whole manicure. I never went back. Moral of the story? If I want life advice, I'll ask my therapist, not my nail tech. And certainly not while I'm stuck with wet nails and a fake smile. Let me start by saying I'm all for helping out at my daughter's school. I volunteer when I can, donate when I'm able, and I make a mean batch of lemon bars for bake sales. But I also have a full-time job and exactly zero patience for power-hungry PTA moms who treat the school like their personal fiefdom. Enter Linda. Linda is the kind of PTA mom who has color-coded spreadsheets for everything from snack rotations to spirit days. She's always just popping into classrooms, always has a clipboard, and acts like she's the principal's boss. A few weeks ago, I was standing near the sign-up sheet for the spring fundraiser when Linda swooped in like a hawk. "Oh, you haven't signed up to lead the bake sale yet," she chirped. I told her, nicely, that I could probably bring something, but I couldn't take on a leadership role because work had been crazy lately. Her smile got tight. "You're one of the few moms who isn't doing something. You look like you have a flexible schedule." Now, mind you, I was wearing scrubs. I'm a nurse. I had just come from a 12-hour shift. My flexible schedule had involved 3 code blues and no lunch break. I smiled and said, "Sorry, not this time." She didn't say anything else, just walked off in a huff. The next day, I got a weirdly passive-aggressive email from the school's admin saying someone had raised concerns about parent engagement. Then my daughter's teacher gently mentioned that some parents felt certain families weren't contributing. I was stunned. I hadn't signed up for the bake sale, so now I was creating a toxic environment? I knew it was Linda. So I replied to the admin, CC'd the principal, and said I'd be happy to contribute in ways that align with my availability, but that my job as a healthcare worker means I don't have the luxury of midday meetings and cupcake conferences. A few other working parents messaged me privately thanking me. Apparently, Linda had done this to several others, shamed them publicly or behind their backs for not caring enough. The next PDA meeting had noticeably fewer people, and guess what? The bake sale still happened. Nobody died. Linda didn't get her power trip. And my lemon bars? Still the first to go. Our office has one unspoken rule. Don't touch someone else's creamer. Simple, right? Apparently not for Karen. Yes, her real name. You can't make this stuff up. I like nice coffee. I bring in my own fancy oat milk creamer because the office stuff tastes like regret. I label it. I even hide it behind the broccoli no one eats. But every week, it mysteriously ran out. One day, I caught her in the act, mid-pour, no shame. She saw me and smirked. "I'm saving you from yourself. Too many calories," she said. "Excuse me?" I calmly took the bottle, smiled, and said, "Don't worry, I'll save us both the trouble." That night, I replaced it with an identical bottle, filled with unsweetened vinegar water. Next morning, the shriek from the break room was heard on 3 floors. She never touched my stuff again. This happened about 6 months ago, but it still pops into my head every time I pass that salon. I had a job interview the next morning and had booked a trim and blowout at a fancy local salon that I usually can't afford, but hey, first impressions matter. It was a Friday afternoon, so the place was busy but running smoothly. I was in the chair with my stylist, Jenna, about 10 minutes into my cut when the salon door slammed open. In stormed a woman in a white bride hoodie with rhinestones, hair already in curlers, veil in hand, and an air of impending doom. She looked frazzled and sweaty, followed by 2 equally stressed-out bridesmaids carrying Starbucks and garment bags. Without even acknowledging the receptionist, she marched into the middle of the floor and barked, "I have an appointment for an updo." "I'm the bride," as if we couldn't already tell. The receptionist gently reminded her that she was 25 minutes late. The stylist who was supposed to do her hair was now with another client, someone's teenage daughter, getting her hair done for a dance. They could still squeeze her in, but she'd need to wait a bit. Bridezilla was not having it. She stomped around, pointed at me literally, mid-haircut, and yelled, "Why is SG in the chair? I'm getting married. I need to go first." You could hear a pin drop. Jenna calmly explained, "She has an appointment too, and we're in the middle of her cut. You'll be taken care of as soon as possible." This woman huffed and looked directly at me. "You don't need to be here. You can reschedule. My wedding is more important than your little haircut." Now, I'm usually non-confrontational, but I was tired, nervous about my interview, and honestly sick of entitled people thinking the world revolves around them. I smiled sweetly and said, "Good luck with your wedding, but no, I'll be finishing my haircut." She scoffed, threw her hands in the air, and started loudly complaining to her bridesmaids about how no one respects the sanctity of marriage anymore. Meanwhile, the rest of the salon tried not to laugh. Eventually, the receptionist offered her tea and a seat to calm down. The stylist finished with the teenager and started on Bridezilla, who spent the entire appointment loudly criticizing everything from the temperature of the flat iron to the exact shade of blonde in her highlights, which she insisted needed to be fixed 30 minutes before her ceremony. When I left, her bridesmaids were trying to force-feed her crackers because she hadn't eaten all day and was this close to fainting. My stylist and I just exchanged knowing looks. Apparently, the staff had been warned she might be a little high-strung. Understatement of the year. Moral of the story: being a bride doesn't entitle you to treat everyone else like background extras in your personal movie. We've all got our own lives, and sometimes our haircut is the most important thing happening to us that day. And yes, I got the job. Maybe standing my ground gave me a little extra confidence. Sorry, I can't tell this one shortly. There's no quick way to explain how I went to the store for frozen pizza and dish soap and ended up in an impromptu lecture on femininity, health, and How to Attract a Quality Man, all delivered by a complete stranger who saw fit to critique my grocery cart. It was a Wednesday night, one of those everything is chaos evenings. I'd just gotten off work late, hadn't eaten, had 10% phone battery, and was on my last clean pair of socks. I stopped at the local supermarket hoping to grab a quick dinner and restock a few essentials before collapsing at home. So there I am, roaming the aisles in my oversized hoodie, bun falling apart, mascara halfway down my face. My cart had the following items: a frozen pepperoni pizza, a bottle of white wine, tampons, a pint of cookie dough ice cream, one sad-looking cucumber, a can of dry shampoo, and dish soap. Not my finest nutritional hour, I admit, but this was survival shopping. I got in line behind an older woman, maybe mid-60s, with a neat bob haircut, pearl earrings, and a face that looked like she'd smelled something sour since birth. I wasn't even paying attention to her at first. I was texting my roommate. Then I heard a throat clear. I looked up. She was staring directly at my cart. Then she looked at me, then back at the cart, and said, "That's your dinner?" I blinked. Yeah. She raised an eyebrow. Frozen pizza, wine, ice cream, and tampons. Let me guess, single. Now, I was so taken aback I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because what kind of lunatic says that to a stranger in the checkout line? I replied, "Is it that obvious?" She nodded solemnly, like she was about to lay down some wisdom from the mountaintop. "Sweetheart, this is why women today are struggling. You're putting garbage into your body, covering up your natural scent with chemicals," she pointed at the dry shampoo, "and you think a man is going to take you seriously when you show up bloated, drunk, and hormonal." I thought she was joking. She was not. She then launched into a full-blown monologue about how the women of her generation cooked real food, dressed like ladies even at the store, and knew how to keep a man. Meanwhile, I looked like a walking advertisement for depression and cookie dough addiction. I tried to de-escalate with humor. "Well, good thing I'm not shopping for a man, just myself." She actually snorted. "That's the problem. You don't think you need one." And then she hit me with, if you stopped eating like a frat boy and dressed like you had self-respect, you'd be engaged by now. By this point, I noticed the cashier was listening in, eyes wide, clearly unsure if she should intervene. The line behind me was growing. People were watching. One guy behind me gave me a sympathetic shrug. I think another woman whispered, "Oh my God." I took a deep breath and said, "Ma'am, respectfully, this is a grocery store, not a TED Talk." She ignored that entirely and reached into her own bag to pull out a pamphlet. I kid you not. She handed it to me and said, "This is a guide my church group put together on holistic womanhood. You should read it. There's a recipe in there for hormone-balancing soup and a list of fertility-boosting essential oils." I took the pamphlet, mostly out of shock, and just stared at it. It was real, professionally printed. There was a diagram of feminine body rhythms on the back cover. Thankfully, the cashier finally saved me by saying, "Ma'am, your total is $47.82. Pearl earrings paid, gave me a pitying look, and walked off like she'd just tried to rescue a soul and failed. When it was my turn, the cashier didn't say a word. Just scanned my items, handed me my receipt, and whispered, "You handled that way better than I would have." Outside, I sat in my car for a solid 5 minutes, trying to process what had just happened. I didn't cry. I didn't throw the pamphlet away. I showed it to my roommate later. She framed the soup recipe as a joke. The thing is, I don't mind people who live differently from me. Cook your quinoa, oil up your chakras, wear lipstick to the mailbox if that's your thing. But shaming a stranger's dinner and calling it a reason they're alone? That's next-level audacity. Anyway, I went home, ate the pizza, drank the wine, and watched a rom-com with my cat. And you know what? It was a damn good night. Moral of the story: Let people buy their tampons and frozen pizza in peace. And keep your pamphlets to yourself. Airports bring out the worst in people. I thought I'd seen it all until this. I had a long layover in Atlanta. The gate was packed, so I was thrilled to grab a good seat near an outlet. I left my small bag and boarding pass on the chair and went to grab a quick sandwich, literally 5 minutes. When I came back, a woman, mid-40s, designer everything, was in my seat, with her suitcase now parked where mine had been. I politely said, "Excuse me, I was sitting here." She looked me dead in the eye and said, "Well, you left." I thought it was abandoned. I gestured to the bag and my boarding pass, which were now sitting on the floor beside her. She shrugged. "You should know, it's survival of the fittest in airports." I was floored. I asked her to move. She refused. I flagged a gate agent. They were amazing. The agent walked over and said, "Ma'am, please return this passenger's seat and belongings." Leaving your seat for a quick purchase is not abandonment. Grumbling, she got up, loudly proclaiming how entitled young people are these days. I got my seat back, ate my sandwich in peace. And I now carry that story with me as a reminder. Some people truly believe courtesy ends at airport security. Some people bring snacks or books for a long train ride. My seatmate brought a full spiritual awakening, whether I wanted it or not. I was on an 8-hour train ride to visit my sister. Window seat secured, playlist loaded, snacks in my bag. I was ready for peace. Then she sat down. Late 30s, long flowing skirt, hair in a loose braid, arms full of cloth pouches. She smiled warmly and said, "I can already tell our auras are compatible." I thought she was joking. Reader, she was not. Within 5 minutes, she had set up a crystal grid on the tray table between us. I mean literal polished stones, arranged like she was summoning a minor weather deity. I tried to be polite. "Nice stones." She beamed. "They're energy amplifiers. I can feel your womb chakra is blocked." I choked on my granola bar. "Excuse me?" She nodded seriously. "You're sitting with your legs crossed. It's disrupting your feminine energy. Your divine channel is clogged." I uncrossed my legs just to shut her up. Big mistake. That unlocked her second form. She asked for my birth time so she could map my soul blueprint. I refused. She said that was resistance energy and suggested I smell some sacral mist oil. Before I could decline, she sprayed it directly between us. It smelled like cloves and disappointment. I put in my earbuds. She tapped my arm. "Music creates interference. Your womb won't heal if your frequencies are synthetic." "I'm listening to Fleetwood Mac." "Exactly," she said, as if that proved her point. At hour 3, she pulled out a singing bowl and tried to tone cleanse the air. I kid you not. The man across the aisle looked like he was considering jumping out the emergency window. Eventually, a train staff member came by and, to her credit, very gently asked her to put the instruments away. Crystal Lady looked genuinely hurt. "This is sacred work," she said. "She's vibrating at guilt frequencies." I mouthed, "Help me," behind her back. He moved her to a solo seat 3 cars down. When I told my sister the story, she laughed so hard she cried. Then she asked if my womb felt any clearer. Honestly, no idea. But my sinuses were clear from the clove fog. The DMV is a leveler of humanity. Doesn't matter who you are, you wait, like everyone else. Or so I thought. It was a humid Tuesday morning, and the DMV line was already stretching out the door. I was 23rd in line, sipping lukewarm coffee and trying to ignore the grumbling behind me. The woman directly behind me was decked out in what I can only describe as tactical chic, utility pants, aviator sunglasses indoors, a badge clipped to her purse. We made small talk at first. She said she was a cop. Off duty today, she added. That will matter in a second. About 15 minutes in, she suddenly moved up, straight to the front, and started talking to the clerk. I couldn't hear everything, but I caught officer, priority, and more important things to do. The clerk asked, "Are you on duty?" She said no, but I shouldn't have to wait with the rest of these people. Yes, she actually said that. The woman next to me muttered, "Unreal." A few others started whispering. Then someone yelled, "You're off duty. Get back in line." The woman turned around, glared at us, and said, "I protect your lives. You can wait 5 extra minutes." A murmur rippled through the room. Someone called for the supervisor. Here's where it got good. The supervisor came out, listened, then asked, "Ma'am, are you in uniform or here on official business?" "No," she said, "but..." "Then please return to your place in line." She tried to argue, said she was being disrespected. The supervisor didn't budge. Grumbling, sunglasses still on, she walked back and stood 5 spots behind me now. Apparently, in her stunt, several people had snuck in front of her. When it was my turn at the window, the clerk smiled and said, "Thank you for your patience. Some people think the rules don't apply to them." I walked out that day with my new license and a new life rule. If you need a badge to cut in line, you probably don't deserve it. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and tell us in the comments, have you ever met someone so shameless you couldn't believe it? We'd love to hear your stories.